Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Kasper podcast. And today, we are honored to be joined by
Stephanie
and
Romele.
Hi, everybody.
What's up?
So today, Jonathan invited us to talk more about our social interactions and lives here in KAS.
But before we get to that, Jonathan, how would you describe your social life?
my social life. I think my social life has been pretty interesting.
Why so?
I've been really expanding my social circle recently. Just really
Just
trying to
this
reach
year?
out to, not this year, starting from years ago.
Oh yeah, back when I met you.
Yeah, back when I met you.
I remember when we first met, you were trying so hard to get to know me.
Yeah, but
What was that all about?
because I was trying to expand. I was trying to gain new friends out of my grade.
You were kind of annoying back then. I'm
Yeah,
gonna tell you right now.
kind of rejected me, but it's okay. It's okay. We're friends.
We're
now
good
anyway.
friends
Yeah,
now.
we're good
Good
friends.
friends.
Good friends. Yeah. So
Well, in the recent few podcasts, you guys talk a lot about school community. So we want to just expand on that, in terms of social interaction and how that plays a huge part in our school community. So what do you guys think about that? How would you define it? Or how would you say it's the importance of it?
Well, in terms of our school community, I think that for the most part, there are a lot of cliques. That's what I've noticed, and that isn't to say that's a bad thing. It's just I noticed that everybody is just spread out within their own within their own social circle, within a collective whole, And while the students here at KAS are quite open-minded and open to new interactions and stuff, it's very hard to really break that mold, and that's what I've noticed at least.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So being part of Stuco and collaborating with the house committee here, do you guys think that what you've been doing so far is helping in terms of these social interactions?
Yeah, I like to think so, because for example, if you guys remember Spirit Week, right? There are lots of events there that we really try and mix everybody from all grade levels together. Like for example, we had the tug of war, and that was a massive success. There were lots of people, lots of teachers that were all just joining in, and it kind of teaches us about the importance of teamwork and stuff like that. So I think it's been very useful so far. How about you?
me,
As activities coordinator.
as activities
of Stuco.
coordinator, I think I want to encourage people to become more social. I think the first step is to be more open-minded to more social settings and environments, and also you need to have the right mindset.
What kind of mindset?
So I think you shouldn't be afraid of awkwardness and failures,
How would you really connect with the people that that are very introverted or find it hard to expand into other social circles?
I just talk to them until they respond. And then once they respond,
Wait.
That's actually how I do.
Wait. Has that been successful for you so far?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and then they reply. Finally, they reply, right? And then we find something that we have in common. And then that's how a friendship
Basketball?
has been born. I don't know. It could be anything. It
Like
can be
what?
basketball, wrestling, fighting.
Wrestling.
Yeah, doing homework. I don't
Why are you
know.
looking at me when you said wrestling?
Because you like wrestling.
No, I don't. No,
Yeah,
I
you do.
no, I
You
don't.
watch
Rumors.
wrestling. Not
Something
rumors.
a part of toxic friendships that we'll be talking about later on.
Yes, that's a really important topic, actually. Yeah.
This guy knows all about it.
I think going back to school community and classroom settings, how do you think teachers in a sense play a huge role in implementing social interactions in our classrooms?
Well, one thing that I noticed is that a lot of our teachers tend to just let us sit wherever we want, of course, with the few exceptions. And in these interactions, it kind of leaves people limited to talking with their own friends, being with their own social circle, which isn't, detrimental, of course. There's just a lot of, in terms of more connection, there could be more things that are done to, encourage that. But there are also lots of it isn't all that bad though, because there are lots of group assignments where people are kind of forced to be together. What do you think? Or you? I don't care.
I think teachers at our school do a good job in terms of peer interactions, because I think our teachers also understand that having a healthy social life at school is also something that impacts our education. Because, I mean, like, personally for me, if I feel like I'm in an unfamiliar environment or I'm with people that I'm not, like, very comfortable with, it, like, impacts my education because, like, I'll just be thinking about that the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so, like, I think teachers do a good job in terms of, like, for example, if we have group work, we'll typically, like, put shy kids together with, like, people who are more confident and kind of break them out of their shell and stuff like that.
But do you think that lays a foundation for, I wouldn't forced interaction in a way, because you never really know what's going on in, you know, people's minds.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is beneficial. Do you think that there is some like adverse effects of that?
Personally, I don't think so. Because everyone should be.
When we're doing group assignments and stuff, especially when you're forced to be with people that you aren't really like, you know, really close with or aren't really a part of your social circle. Because I've heard from several people who are like very introverted or like who tend to keep to themselves that they aren't very appreciative or they aren't really as excited about, you know, forced interaction as, you know, as some other more open-minded people are. Well, I personally think that just, you know, encouraging and I guess forcing these interactions has the potential for, you know, beneficial effects. Do you think that there are any like adverse effects to that as well?
I think like sometimes like teachers don't understand like the social circles as you mentioned before in our school. So sometimes they'll pair like those more confident kids with shy kids, but they don't realize that these people already have their circles. And then like if they're paired with someone, like if they're paired with their friends in the same group and there's a shy kid, they tend to exclude these other kids. So we never really know what's going on in everyone's mind, as you mentioned earlier. So I think that's also kind of a downside to that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think that like our school can do to like promote this even more? Like,
Jonathan?
like more school spirit and stuff like that.
School spirit?
Especially like the fact that you're running for like a executive position in StuCo. You are going to be in charge of all this. So what do you think?
I want to listen from someone who actually has experience dealing with this kind of stuff. Like
Me?
Does, like as a StuCo president.
StuCo president.
Yeah, StuCo
Insert
president.
that in. Okay. Well, for me personally, it's all about forming meaningful connections. Because there's always, in this position, you kind of think of yourself as like, you know, the big boss or like the one that really...
The big boss.
the one that really like, you know, runs it all. But in reality, it isn't really the case because you have to have people to rely on and people have to rely on you. In terms of encouraging school spirit, well, we've already done a lot of that. We've been trying to promote more house committee events where people who aren't in the same social circle are kind of encouraged to be together and collaborate and interact. I think, well, one of the main problems is that I feel like there are lots of people that aren't really willing or are too shy to really put themselves out there. So of course I try to advocate for more inclusivity or for more participation in future events, but it all takes time. Like there isn't going to be a year where there's always going to be perfection, and that's okay. It's just the process in which, you know, it happens, and if more people feel more included, then that's a good thing. You know, it just takes time and patience, and you have to really get to know your, you know, community. Now that you've heard mine, how about you?
Yeah, what do you think?
For me,
I think you were spacing out the whole time.
Yeah, did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I did. It was very long.
What did I say then,
Okay,
Mr. Kasper, co-editor-in-chief?
You said it's very important for people to work together.
Why?
Because people of, you know, house activities work together, different people.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, that's what you said, right?
Is that what I said?
That's what you said, right? Okay, moving on. This is a very important topic that I wanted to talk about, which is how to avoid toxic friends and toxic friend groups. And I think this is very important because we're high schoolers, right? And when we encounter those kind of situations, when we don't know how to deal with it, it's very unhealthy for us. So I just want to talk about this. What do you guys think?
So I think like toxic friend groups and like relationships in general, you're always going to have to face that moment where you go through like an argument with someone else. And obviously this will impact your work in a sense. It'll translate to your schoolwork and stuff like that, because, if you have if your mind is clouded by like the arguments and like all these negative thoughts that's been said, or negative like things that's been said by someone else, then you can't focus and you feel like you have to do something about that. So it kind of redirects your attention in class also.
Yeah.
So
It's
I think
hard.
it's more important than we think it is, because we don't realize until we're in that situation.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the main pieces of advice that I would give is you really have to, well, number one, you have to be happy about yourself, but also take care of yourself more.
Yeah.
Like take some more time for self-care. Because in terms of like toxic friendships or like toxic relationships, whatever, any forms of toxicity, you're going to be, it might feel like you're left to fend for yourself.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that is the case. It's all about how you're trying to build yourself back up. Don't worry about your reputation or your friendship at that moment. Well, of course, you want to try and salvage that. You need to make sure that you're still mentally able to salvage that. So I'd say a lot of self-care is needed.
Don't be
self-love.
Yeah. Don't be friends with people for the sake of having more friends.
Clout?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you did to me?
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, you said that in the beginning of the podcast.
What?
You
You said you wanted to expand your circle. That's why you tried.
and you
so
talked to
hard
me.
be Romel's
And how
friend.
has that worked out for you?
Okay, my point is you need to identify these toxic relationships.
Okay, Mr.
And then
Kasper,
end
co-editor
them.
in chief.
And then
okay.
end them right then.
Hey, wait.
End those relationships, if you know what I mean.
I think like an advice that I have for everyone is that like don't like ignore your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes you have like a sense of guilt being around someone, or you feel just bad or negative thought, or like have negative thoughts when you're like around someone who's toxic. But sometimes it's difficult to accept that your friends are toxic. So
Yeah.
one thing that I would say is just don't ignore how you feel.
Yeah.
Because like you really need to accept that part of yourself before you can, heal and move on. And like my motto is kind of like life is short. So like not everybody is meant to be with each other. So
Yeah.
it's not wrong to stop being friends with someone, but it's like you should be more mature about it if you're trying to like cut someone off of your life.
Also, make sure that you aren't, purposefully blinding yourself
Yeah.
to your own friend's toxicity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time,
We give them the benefit
you
of
give
the
them
doubt.
you give them the benefit of that just because of that connection that you
Yeah.
made. And even if the person has done something horribly wrong, you still want to do your best. You still want to do your best to support him or her. But you kind of have to to get it in your head that, as Stephanie said, some people just aren't meant to be together. And if your beliefs are constantly clashing with the beliefs of your friend, I think I'd call that a toxic friendship.
I think like if you limit yourself so much to like toxic relationships and toxic friendships, you're kind of like hindering yourself from actually meeting the people who care about you. So like if you want to expand your circle in this case, then you need to like understand the people around you first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know those TikToks where it's like I don't know the song, but like there are like these two options, and you have to run towards the side that you're more into. You know how some of them are always like toxic or healthy, and like there's some people that go for toxic.
Yeah.
Don't be those people. You always want to be away from toxicity as much as you can, and even if I don't know if you think toxicity is cool. It's not. Don't think of it in that way. Okay.
Would you think talking about it would be better, confronting like the toxicity that you have between like maybe your friend or something,
I think-
rather than cutting them off, like you guys said before?
I think letting
depends.
them know, because like I feel like after 18 years, you go through all that middle school drama,
Yeah.
and you understand certain people. You know that they can't change.
Yeah.
When you grow older, you kind of realize that like not everyone is meant to be there for you, and like in like 20 years time, those people might not even matter to you. So there's really no point in keeping them around unless you need clout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jonathan. Kasper, co-editor in chief.
But that's true. I'm co-editor.
So like kind of bringing that forward about expanding your circle, I wanted to talk a little bit about sense of belonging, since like Romele and I are seniors and
Yeah.
we're gonna go off to college soon. And like we also like moved to KAS like pretty recently.
Yeah.
So I think we could talk about our experience.
Sure.
In that, especially you. You also moved from another school, right, in Taipei, moving into KAS. Do you still remember your experiences? Like how
Yeah.
you felt?
It was very hard at the first few weeks because I felt very lonely because people already had their previous friend groups already,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to fit into those groups when you don't know any one of them.
Do you think it's easier to fit in when you're in middle school?
In middle school,
Because can I?
yeah.
Okay. Because for me personally, I came first semester of 9th grade, and as you all probably know, I'm a very like outgoing, like extroverted person. But at first, because these friend groups have been together since
Middle school.
elementary school, like
Yeah.
middle school, there's like so many years
Yeah.
that have passed
Yeah.
that you weren't there, so it's kind of hard to kind of join up with them,
Yeah.
So at first, when I came, it was hard. I also can't speak Chinese, so it's like
language barrier.
I felt as if I had to, fend for myself. And, coming from, Vietnam, there's like a completely different, language barrier that I had to get used to. It may seem hard at first, but after, let's say, a few weeks, after I started getting to know some of these people and making meaningful friendships and connections, I really it started to give me confidence, first of all, to venture out some more, but it also just gave me that sense of belonging. So I found that by, just interacting. I didn't do it for clout, but I interacted with people just for the sake of making these, connections, because nobody wants to go through school alone,
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's always good to have some sort of like, support system when something goes
Yeah.
wrong or when you really need someone. So yeah, that's if there's one piece of advice I could give to any like student that's currently feeling alone or currently doesn't have their sense of belonging, or to any of the new kids that are going to be watching this maybe next year,
Yeah.
put yourself out there. Like it's going to be really, really scary at first, especially if you don't speak Chinese, but it'll feel really good in the end.
Yeah, I think this is also like a reminder for people who already have their own friend groups is to be more accepting
Yeah.
to people that are new, because we've all also experienced the same thing as them, and it doesn't feel that good being alone.
I think like so I moved to KS like second semester of 9th grade, and I came from Singapore, and it was like really different because I've been studying there for the past 15 years, so I'm more familiar with that environment. And I think something about like sense of belonging is that it matters like a lot, like the people around you, because they give you like the sense of comfort and confidence. Because like I felt like without this like confidence, I was so limited to my opportunities. Like I was scared to join clubs, I was scared to participate, and like I felt like that also kind of affected my like work ethic, because I'm like
I get what you mean.
like you focus on yourself so much because you're like, oh, I feel so sad, like I feel like I need to fend for myself, as you mentioned earlier. So like kind of losing the sense of confidence when you move from one place to another, because I think it's really like I think everyone needs to realize that your friends give you like a huge sense of like security, that security and support that you need to like have new experiences or join like new clubs and stuff like that. So just something about that, I think before moving here I didn't know a lot about like Taiwanese culture, and like of course like speaking Chinese, like everywhere, like if you go anywhere you need to be able to have like a foundation in speaking Chinese.
I still can't speak Chinese after 4 years, guys.
Yeah, that's why you're so dependent on us. We are your security blanket.
Hey, you don't get to insult me here.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, like I think especially for the seniors that are going to go off to college, do your research to the places that you're going to go, especially if you're going to go somewhere like cold or like a like a different climate. I think people are not prepared for that. Like people don't understand. They're just going there and like romanticizing their lives there. But realize that reality is always different from what you think it is. So yeah, do your research before you move to new places, and that's what can that's like basically the foundation in preparing you to move to a new place. But the thing is that your environment will always be unfamiliar to you, like when you move to a new place. So like always be open-minded in terms of making new friends. So do you have like any advice for people that are like attempting to join new friend groups or like moving to a new environment?
I feel like the like, how easy it is to become a part of a friend group. It's dependent on both parties.
Mhm.
Like for one, the friend group has to be open to accepting people who may be different than them,
Yeah.
and of course the other person has to be accepting of the fact that they're going to be with people that they might have never spoken to before,
Yeah.
and it will feel awkward at first, but I say just go for it. Like what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also people overthink a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe after you talk to them, you'll
Yeah.
discover something new.
But obviously, always keep a lookout.
Yeah.
Just because you're looking for friends, it doesn't mean you have to do everything in your power to please them, because that's not what a friendship is.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know?
you don't have to change yourself for
Yeah.
people. You have to let people find you also.
Yeah. And accept you for who you
Yeah.
are.
Mhm.
That'll make you feel more comfortable in
Yeah.
these like new environments.
Because imagine you join like a toxic friend group, and you're like the nicest person on earth,
Yeah.
but then you yourself become toxic when you join that friend group. Do you want to live your life like that way?
Do you want to live your
No,
life like that
no,
way?
never.
Exactly.
I leave the friend group.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like coping with change is always like difficult.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're coming to KS for the first time, or if you're going off to college, you're gonna experience new things.
Mhm.
What do you recommend in terms of like how they can cope with change? Okay, anyways, what I think is that put your like what Romele said, put yourself out there. Our school has like different opportunities, like clubs and stuff like that. I think you can do the same thing in like college too. People take like part-time jobs, or like
Yeah.
appoint themselves in more like responsibility within the school. Because when you start like putting yourself out there, you will feel like a sense of belonging. Like, oh, I am, like the STUCO president of KAS.
Mhm.
So you feel like you have like a position and a place at school.
Yeah.
I've gone through all my talking notes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyways,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Coping with change, like especially if the culture is like vastly different than yours. Because for example,
Yeah.
if you leave Taiwan and then end up going to Switzerland,
Yeah.
to the US, there's always going to be some sort of variation.
Yeah.
And you just have to open yourself to that change. Like for example, learning a new language. And of course, I need to take my own advice and trying to learn like the new languages, because for me personally, when it comes to learning languages, I feel awkward
Yeah.
because I feel like I have an accent and then it just sounds weird and then people start laughing.
Oh.
So that's something that I have to overcome myself. And so I'll give some advice, but then I also need to follow it. Just don't be afraid to try. You'll sound really weird at first, and people will laugh, but they probably just find you cute or like your accent cute.
Yeah.
Mostly you. How about you? Do you have anything like? How do you cope with change, Jonathan? Like,
Cope with
okay,
change.
so you came from Taipei and you went down to Kaohsiung American School, right?
Yeah.
And the school in Taipei, that was a local school, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How did that like local school system differ with the more American, Western style like school culture? Because I'd say that people in KS are more like Westernized.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have more Western,
Wow.
engagement and Western motivation. I don't know if it's a
So
thing.
I remember during the time, 7th grade, along with me, there were also a lot of new students from local schools. So I don't think the adjustment was there wasn't really that of an adjustment, because I could just join a friend group with the new students, and there wasn't too much of a cultural shift, I guess, because they were also from local school. Yeah, so that was my experience.
But that also happened to me, but it wasn't like with people from a local school. It's like when I first came, like a bunch of new students kind of got together and they became a friend group. But then we just all drifted apart after we all started finding ourselves. So that's also another thing to to keep in mind.
Yeah.
To like mentally prepare yourself, but to also move on.
Yeah.
Like I guess at the same rate, or like put yourself out there. So it's like, because it's really easy to drift, and it's completely normal.
Yeah.
It happens all the time,
Mhm.
and that isn't anything. And nothing. You didn't do anything bad. It's just because that sense of belonging. They also feel that sense of belonging. So so obviously they're gonna try and
Grow,
find their
expand.
own voice.
Yeah.
So you also just have to be willing to expand, just as these other new people are. Just be ready and willing for that.
I think like talking about the idea of drifting apart, I've seen that happen a lot, especially since I've been like in 4 different schools before. And in a sense, like my friends who I've been like really close to in one school, and then we would move to a different school together. In a sense, I would always like observe and like realize that eventually we drift apart, and we find people who are like more like us, like who we feel more comfortable with.
Yeah.
But it's not wrong to drift apart, because in a sense, like Romele said, it's part of growing.
Yeah.
And like if someone tells you like, oh, you're so different from what I knew before, or like, oh, I don't like this new you, then just ignore them, because you're growing, and you're making the best version of yourself, and you're being more confident. If someone from your past were to say that you're different and criticize you for that, then just like leave them. Leave them in 2020.
Yeah, I know. And on the topic of drifting apart, there's always the potential that you're gonna get back together as well. So don't be afraid of that. Like personally, since I've been leaving, like I've been going from country to country to country, ever since I was young. Obviously, I drifted apart from my States friends, and then from my Vietnamese friends, from my Filipino friends, and now I'm more close with my Taiwanese friends. But now, like once you get to be more comfortable with yourself, and you really really know who you are, because they say in high school you don't really know who you are yet, and for the most part that's true, but you a bit more about yourself. That's when you'll be in a position to reach out again. Like, for example, I've just started reconnecting with my friend who's currently in New York right now from Vietnam, and we've been texting like every day. So don't let the idea of drifting away or like drifting apart scare you. It's a part of growing, as Stephanie said, and it's gonna happen. It's bound to happen. Just prepare yourself for that.
Prepare yourself for it. Yes. Yeah. Especially like some people in KS. Not this is not shade, but like some people have been like in KS for like more than 10 years. So I guess you haven't really experienced this like change in environment in a sense. So this will probably hit you personally harder than, like it's not easy. Like even though I've changed, like I've been in 4 different schools, it doesn't get easier each time. So like the first time is always the most difficult, like especially if you think that the person that you've grown up with for a long time, like over 10 years, will be your best friend for life, and then you see them drifting apart from you. So you might be those people who are like, oh, you're so different now, you've changed. Just don't be that kind of person. Be happy for your friends' like growth.
Because you'll also find yourself with people that you trust and people that you're close with. That's why I never used the term BFF. BFF, the best friend forever.
Middle school thing.
It's such a middle school thing.
You're my best friend forever.
But even back then, like I didn't really believe in that, because I've been moving around for way too long that I'm fine having best friends, but like BFFs is just, a bit of a stretch for me. And some people do that, and, good for you. But like, just be ready for that.
Final advice, just
don't forget the in-chief part, more formality. Co-editor-in-chief.
Kasper.
Just don't be afraid.
Okay. Realistically, just to sum up what Romele and I said, don't be afraid to grow apart from people. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and just be confident. And even though it's difficult when you have to kind of do it yourself without the support of your friends, when you're going through new experiences and being in new environments, just know that as long as you have confidence in yourself and take it away, Romele.
Just as long as you have confidence in yourself, you can do anything you want. Anything
you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Romele.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Jonathan.
Nobody cares.
Okay.
Nobody
bye.
cares. Bye.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, everybody. Bye.
Bye.